Hey, what's up everybody? This is your boy Kenny, and this is How to Get Away with Murder Season 5, Episode 4, and the name of this episode is It's Her Kid. For those who watched this episode, if you notice why a lot of people in the cast was wearing purple, is the same reason why I'm wearing purple in this video, is to show support to anti-bullying of LGBT youth. And I, for one, I can honestly say that I was a victim of bullying growing up, and so I definitely stand in solidarity with those who have to deal with bullying, and that bullying is something that has to stop and that it should be ended, because yeah, in one aspect bullying does make you tough, but then also bullying has long-lasting effects, as far as psychologically and emotionally, which still can cripple somebody, even, beyond those young years. So we need to actually stand in solidarity, with anti-bullying, and making sure that our youth can actually have a more secure future and that their greatness can show. So let me begin with this review. The episode picks up where Annalise gets a visit from Nate, and Nate shows that this woman kidnapped a baby, and he thinks it's Bonnie, but she tells him that's not Bonnie, it's her sister. So we're seeing this go on, but then also we realize that after that happens, she ends up going to do salsa with Tegan, and we see that she's kind of in her head at first, but eventually Tegan gets her on the dance floor. But she goes back and forth with Nate because she thought that the files were destroyed, but Nate, was motivated by him reconnecting with his father, that he wanted to give Bonnie a chance to know that her child is alive, and that she actually has that option to whether build a relationship or not. So he's pretty much saying that, so she pretty much, Nate is telling Annalise, you need to tell her. But Annalise was like, she had this child when she was 15, and she was told that the child was born dead, and now she's gonna find out that that she actually has a child still living. And she was like, Bonnie's in a good place right now, why would you want to upset her like this? But then Nate said this is the perfect time, because she's in a good place, that you can share with her about that she does have a son. Then we see, at the house, Michaela is hungover because she was in a drunken mess over Tegan, and we see that Asher is over there, trying to get Connor and Oliver to, make plans for the wedding because he's one of the best men. And we see that he still has it out for Michaela, because all of a sudden Michaela was in the bathroom, and then Asher was, talking to Oliver, talking about that, I really want to talk to you about the wedding, and also to let you know that I'm bringing a +1. So I wanted to see that you can make room for me and my +1. Oliver immediately called him on his bullshit and was like, first of all, stop trying to make Michaela jealous, and you can't afford to bring a +1 because we can't even afford a wedding right now. So then after Oliver leaves, Asher was like, I'm gonna let you poop, Michaela. And Michaela's like, I'm not gonna. He's like, bye, Stinky. I was like, Asher, you are such a little bitch. But I was so here for it, because he's upset, and we see this throughout this episode, that Asher is upset mainly because he's no longer a part of the same social circle that he's been a part of all this time with the Keating crew, and then also he's even just as much as upset with Annalise because Annalise didn't pick him for a clinic, and she picked Gabriel instead of him. All right, so we also get a scene with Miller and Bonnie. We come to find out that Miller is now has now got a permanent spot as the DA, and he draws up this relationship contract with Bonnie, and that is pretty much asking that they can make their relationship public. No longer do they have to be behind the scenes. But Bonnie tells him she'll think about it. Then we get a scene with Annalise and Nate are at the prison to visit Nate Sr. Annalise right now ain't talking to Nate because she's pissed off that he's been investigating Bonnie's past. And they talk to Nate Sr., who's played by veteran actor Glenn Turman. And you can definitely tell there's been a change in Nate Sr. since that, since her appearing in the Supreme Court. We can see there's a definite change in him. He's grooming himself better. He takes pride in himself. And Annalise, and he's definitely got a good rapport with Annalise. So pretty much what reason why Annalise is there is to let them know that they're going to argue an insanity defense on his case. So she pretty much brings him the questions that they're going to ask during the evaluation, and for him to study them. And then Nate Sr.'s like, yeah, I just can't wait so I can get out of here and I can be on your couch, son. And Annalise immediately was like, why are you... So after they visit him, Annalise goes off on Nate. It's like, why the hell would you tell him he's going to be sleeping in your couch? Because if he gets off, the place that they're going to probably do is put him in a mental facility. But then he was saying that, I just didn't want to, tell him that up front. Well, Annalise tells him, you need to tell him the truth. And he says, well, you need to tell Bonnie the truth. So Annalise just kind of like, you know what? We need to focus at the task at hand and get the hell out of here and not waste his time on this bullshit. But then we see that Nate continues to investigate her case, and he actually finds Bonnie's sister. Her name is Julie Winterbottom, and he actually finds her, and he sees her getting into this discussion with this drug addict who looks around in his 20-ish, which is around the age that Bonnie's son actually is, and so is Gabriel Maddox. But I'll get to that. But so he sees Julie get involved with this young boy, and he can definitely tell that they're strung out and crack addicts or whatever. And Annalise even said that Julie probably stole the baby and probably sold it for crack because Bonnie's sister was on drugs. And as we can tell, she still is. Well, she's got into it with this young guy, and Nate actually finds a used needle in his car, and he takes it in for evidence. And we see that he pushes it on to that DNA chick that he's seeing. She's kind of getting over it because he won't tell her why he's asking her to run this stuff. But then she told him it's the last time. And then I'm just going to tie this whole situation up all together. So they get the test and they get the results. But then we see later on, after Nate Sr. Goes through his evaluation, Nate Jr. goes to meet with his father, and he tells him the truth that, look, Dad, the truth is if you get off, you're going to be put in a mental facility. And he says, will I have my own room? Will I have my own bathroom? Will there be bars on the windows? And he was saying, like, well, yeah, you'll have your own room, and you'll have your own bathroom. And he says, well, will you come see me every day? And he says, absolutely. And he says that, well, for me, that's a win. And we see that broke Nate down, because all this time he's been deprived of a relationship with his father, and now he has a relationship with his dad. And even though he really wants his father to live with him, he's happy that his father still is happy that even if he's going to be put in a mental facility, as long as he has a relationship with his son, he's going to be fine. So this moved him emotionally. At the same time, the DNA girl that he's dating, she decides to break it off with him, and she gives him the results of the test, which I'm gonna talk about later. But she gives him the results, but then she tells him that, look, we can't keep doing this because obviously I want more than you're willing to give. So I'd rather just end this now before anybody gets hurt. So then we actually see that Gabriel, that I'm sorry, not Gabriel, my bad. What we also see is that Frank, remember from the last episode, Otis has hacked Gabriel's computer, so everything that Gabriel sees on his computer, Frank can see on his. So Frank is seeing that, all that Gabriel is doing is just doing emails with other students. He's not really doing anything out of the ordinary yet. But then we see that, he gets a knock on the door, and it's Oliver. So Oliver says, I got this new device where I can actually hack flip phones. And he was like, well, don't need to worry about it. I already figured out something else. I actually, got a guy who's even more high-tech than you. His name is Otis. And he was saying, oh, so you found somebody else to hack Gabriel Maddox's information. So immediately, Frank was like, I don't know what you're talking about. He was like, look, Gabriel Maddox has a flip phone, and he's the only one that's really close to Annalise besides us, so why are you hacking Gabriel's information? So then, what Frank does is what Frank typically does. He lies to their asses. So he takes him upstairs and tells him that, Annalise has me to do a background check on all of her students. And he was like, okay, so... And then he was saying, so Oliver was like, well, did she do a background check on me? And Frank was like, yeah, and I have to even say, I'm even blown away by your porn library. I was like, damn. See, I'm saying when you keep fishing for shit, you actually get answers. So then we see that throughout the episode, Oliver is still researching Gabriel, and he finds out that Gabriel had beat up this doctor, and pretty much put the doctor in a concussion. And, Connor, was telling him that, look, we need to focus on the task at hand and prioritize. You're doing too much. Because the Keating crew, pretty much the clinic, is working on, they're supposed to be working on the case of Nate Sr. and helping to develop his evaluation. But then they also get another case, with Ruthie Burger, which I'm definitely about to get into in a second. But so therefore, Oliver, being the big mouth that he is, aka Olive Oil, tells them that he tells Connor that that Annalise does background checks on all of her students, and he was like, yeah, that's how she gets her inner circle. And then this also starts putting questions in Connor's head. I wonder what she has on me. Why does she choose me of all people? And it just kind of goes into a totally different direction because Connor is insecure as hell, and I'm definitely gonna talk about that. So later on, we see that Frank confronts them because he finds out that Oliver's been investigating Gabriel. And he's saying that, wow, you even hacked me too? He's like, yeah. And I'm telling you guys to stop this shit. And then, of course, Connor doesn't, definitely has it out for Frank. Because they start talking about, like, yeah, she does background checks on everybody. And then, Connor was like, well, what does she have on me? And then Frank was like, you really think I'm going to tell you that? Then he's like, well, the thing is, if you ain't here about our current case, then get the hell out. So Connor puts Frank out and shit, but he tells him to stay the hell away and leave it alone. We see that definitely telling them to stay away is giving them the license to continue to keep doing the bullshit. So then we see that Oliver continues to research it, but now Laurel's in it. And then they come to find out that the reason why Gabriel beat up the doctor was because he was over prescribing his mother's medication. And then Connor, with his insecure ass, decides to look, because it was his essay where Gabriel talked about the incident, and he said that he beat up this doctor because he was overprescribing his mother medication. And Connor decides, I'm going to look to see my admissions essay to see why I got in. He definitely clicks and finds out, oh, Annalise lied to me. And I'm going to get to that later. So we definitely see all that go on. Now, at Kaplan and Gold, they're there to do research on Nate Sr.'s case, but then they get another corporate case with Ruthie Berger. And we come to find out that Michaela actually worked for Ruthie Berger when she was in high school, and she was all geeked about it. And it's just like, Michaela is just doing entirely too much. She's doing too much ass kissing, and she's smelling her own ass. And we see that, you know, there's this whole table of Ruthie Berger food that the team can partake in. Gabriel's not eating it because he says, I don't eat oppression, you know, and that the reason why Ruthie Berger is a case is because there's been a boycott against Ruthie Berger, you know, and one of the reasons is because one of their managers fired all of his black employees when he falsely accused one of them for stealing. So this is the new case that Emmett is the new corporate case that Emmett is behind, and he wants to put Annalise on it. But Annalise right now is focused on Nate Sr.'s case. But it's $1 billion account if they win this one. But then, you know, Michaela was all geeked out about, you know, Ruthie Berger. You know, Emmett says that if we need some of your expertise, would you be available? And she said yes. So Michaela's on the Ruthie Berger account as well, you know, as an intern. So then Annalise actually, she actually runs into Tegan. Tegan gives her a Ruthie Berger. Annalise took a bite out of that burger and was like, it tastes like ass. But then we see that Emmett wants Annalise to meet with Ruth Stevenson, who's the CEO of Ruthie Berger. But she says that, look, I got things to do. Could you please just bring her by the office? But then, instead of taking Annalise, he decides to take Tegan instead. Which definitely rings an alarm with Annalise, like, why couldn't you just meet with Ruthie on your own? And that definitely comes to play later on. Oh yeah, and we definitely see that that Annalise goes to visit Christopher because Laurel put her on the list so she can see the baby anytime she wants to in daycare. So she went to go, you know, play with the baby. And definitely was on her mind is this whole thing with Bonnie. And we definitely see that this has definitely been playing in her mind because she has to tell Bonnie about what's going on. And we definitely get a flashback to when she had Bonnie on the trial years ago, you know, when she was cross-examining Bonnie on the stand, you know, about you know, her pregnancy and her father and all of that. And we see all of this is coming to play. And then also when Bonnie became her intern at her practice, Bonnie had mentioned that you should lay a little bit on your side. It helps sometimes. So how would Bonnie know that if she was never pregnant? So all of this is now coming back to her like, wow, Bonnie really was pregnant and her child was literally taken from her. So instead of going to lunch with Ruth Stevenson, she goes to lunch with Bonnie. And, you know, Bonnie tells her about Miller's contract for a relationship agreement. She pretty much tells her, don't let him pressure you. But Annalise couldn't come to tell her about this whole situation with Nate. And to tell you the truth, it wasn't the best time because they were out in the open, you know, having, you know, salads or whatever. But she asks her that, you know, Nate right now is being recused. He's on leave due to his father's case. And normally I would ask Nate to do this, but can you get me, you know, whatever files you have on Nate Sr.? And Bonnie agrees that she will help her. And then on top of it, this whole pregnancy with Bonnie was controversial because the father was a councilman. And her father told her that if she said anything, he would kill her and her sister and would burn them and bury the ashes at City Hall. You know, so Bonnie was literally, not only was she violated, but then, you know, also she was also brutally controlled by her father. So then we also get a scene later on where Annalise is going over Nate Sr.'s evaluation questions, and they talk about his heart palpitations that he had experienced before he ended up beating up one of the guards. And then she was saying that, you know, so was it true that after you beat up this guard, even with your hands bloody, you asked for a slice of chocolate cake? And of course, Nate Sr. was like, man, that's some bullshit. I wouldn't ask for no damn chocolate cake. Who the fuck in their right mind would ask for chocolate cake after doing some shit like that? But they were trying to let him know, yeah, you wouldn't do that now because you're more sane. But back then, you had a mental break. And he was like, man, no jury is not going to buy that bullshit. But Annalise was like, well, that's the point. There won't need to be a jury if this passes. You won't have to appear in front of a jury. They can pretty much, you know, change your conviction to insanity, and, you know, they'll place you in an institution versus, you know, you being in jail. And that this actually happened with you being locked in the shoe, meaning in the hole, for all that time. And of course, this later on brings, you know, Nate and Annalise together again, and, you know, Annalise is like, why? Why do I need to tell Bonnie this? And he said that, you know, you can be there for her, you know, as you have been there for me. You can actually help Bonnie to get back what she's lost, what was taken from her. And rightfully so. Her child was taken from her, and her ability to be a mother was taken from her, just like Annalise. And now we see that whole common bond as to why Bonnie and Annalise are so close. It's due to the fact that they both know what it's like to lose a child, and they both know what it's like to carry a child, but to never get a chance to be a mother to the child. So then we see after she has her lunch with Bonnie, and also meeting with Nate Sr., she comes back to the office and she meets Ruth Stevenson. Ruth Stevenson is like, oh wow, you're so much prettier in person. I'm such a fan. And then she went to go to try to touch Annalise's hand. Annalise was like, no, bitch. She's like, well, it's so beautiful. She's like, well, you don't have to touch it to know it's beautiful. Shit. And I was cracking up, and I'm like, boo-boo. Somebody didn't actually pull her to let her know you don't touch a black girl's hair. Whether it's real or whether it's fake. You don't touch a black girl's hair. And even Tegan was like, bitch, you done fucked up. Like, you lucky she just told you off. But Annalise flipped out like she was trying to grab her hair. I'm like, boo-boo, no. You don't do that. Now, I can see if you knew her, you just met her, and you already trying to touch her hair. Like, boo-boo. So then we see, after that, we see that Gabriel goes to confront Annalise about her taking Ruby's case. And he was saying that, why would you want to represent a woman who obviously doesn't respect or doesn't care for minorities? And he was like, look, we got to take care some of these corporate cases as well as the cases like Nate Leahy Sr., you know, because at the end of the day, we need these corporate cases to fund this. And he was saying that, well, that's not the reason why I joined. And she says that, well, you became a part of the system when you decided to become an attorney. And he was like, no, I want to blow up the system. And she says, no, that's what I'm doing. I'm blowing up the system. And what I'm doing is that using these corporate cases gives us the funding where we can actually help those who can't afford it, you know, like Nate Leahy and these people who have been railroaded by public defenders. You know, it's kind of like Robin Hood, stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. Or do you disagree with that too? So that pretty much shut Gabriel's ass down. And she went on to doing what she was doing. So, but then before she sends him away, she asks him to get the file from the DA's office, the one that she asked Bonnie to look for. So we see that he goes to the DA's office. Asher is being a salty bitch and is like, oh, so you actually expect me to help you after you took my spot, and you're up here, getting something for Annalise. I know her handwriting, dumbass. And I'm like, Asher is just bitter as hell because he's no longer a part of that crew. And he's even more mad at Annalise that Annalise didn't choose him. So finally, Gabriel meets Bonnie. And he's like, oh yeah, Bonnie, I heard about you. Michaela had mentioned you the other day. And I want to know, why is it that you don't work with Annalise anymore? And she said, that's none of your business. And she needed that file over a day ago. So that definitely, brings alarm to him. Like, why is it that Bonnie doesn't work with Annalise anymore? And what's Bonnie's connection? Then we see that Asher and Bonnie have a moment. And in this moment, my prediction from last episode was right. He still got feelings for Bonnie. But mainly it's out of the fact that he's lonely. Because he no longer has his relationship with Michaela. The only reason why he's still dealing with them is because he's in the wedding. So that's the only reason why he was even at the house. But outside of that, he doesn't live with them. He doesn't go to class with them anymore. It's like he's in a totally different world by himself. And he's angry. And he feels, he feels the isolation. And Bonnie can relate to him because she says, I know what it's like to feel lonely. But then he starts pulling out the fact that maybe if I would have done things differently, you would still be together and everything. I still think about us. So yeah, so I was right when Miller told him to go home and he went to go see Bonnie. Asher felt some kind of ways because he still in a way has feelings for Bonnie. So it just goes to show you that Michaela and Asher's relationship, even though I do think they loved each other, from the roots of it, it was more like a rebound thing for the both of them. He was rebounding off of Bonnie, and she was rebounding off of Caleb, the guy from the Catskills case. So they were kind of like in this rebound relationship, but then they grew genuine feelings for each other. But still, at the end of the day, they both wanted different things. So in a way, it's kind of a good thing that they're not together anymore. But then again, we can definitely see both of them are kind of not in great places since their relationship ended. So then we get a scene with Michaela and Tegan, and Tegan's funny. Tegan was like, I think I need to start wearing garlic to keep you away from me. and Michaela says that when she worked at Ruthie Burger, because now Tegan's on the case, she's like, well, what about Ruthie's case? And Tegan was like, man, that case was out the window once she tried to grab Annalise's hair. So now, but she's like, but no, I got an idea though. Because Ruthie will make a decision as to tomorrow whether she's gonna, is she gonna actually work with Kaplan and Gold, as far as her, as far as them being her legal team. And Michaela says that, look, when we worked at Ruthie Burger, every 3 hours we had to take a break and we had to clock out for it. So therefore, there's this issue of time robbing where they weren't being fully paid for the time that they were actually at work. And she was saying, okay, can you get proof of that? And Michaela was like, yeah. She's like, I need some time. She's like, you ain't got time because Ruthie's making her decision tomorrow. So Michaela stayed up all night getting all of this information. So we get to the day of the meeting where Ruth is going to make her decision. Michaela shows up with all the information, but Tegan tells her to sit down. And she was saying that, look, the reason why your business is failing is because of the boycott. But then Ruth is so full of herself. She's like, oh, but it's going to end. She's like, sweetie, it's been over a year. That ain't happening. So she pretty much says that when it comes down to it, your family being at the helm is the problem. So this is what I want you to do. Effective immediately, you should step down as CEO and make me the face of your legal team, an African American. because right now there's a lot of racial tension as to why your business is failing. So by you doing this, you know, not only will you be saving face of the company, but then there's probably going to be about $50 million that in stocks that's going to just rise after you make this decision. So that's how Tegan ended up getting the account, and now Emmett has his, you know, has his big win. So Michaela's mad because she's like, why would you have me do all that work if you weren't going to use that? And she was saying that, do you really think you're going to win a case like that by blackmail? I just did that to see if you could get off your pedestal and that you would actually do the back-breaking work that real attorneys do. And you did it. But I did it, but yet I won the case the right way. So then Michaela's like, so does that mean you still hate me? She says, yesterday you were at a 10, now you're at an 8. So of course this makes Michaela happy, because I'm really starting to think that Michaela definitely is starting to feel something for Tegan. And she was just all happy that now Tegan is beginning to start to like her again. Because even earlier, like when Ruth was there and she was talking, and Michaela was talking to Ruth, you know, Tegan was like, if this bitch don't shut up. She just kind of gave that look like, I can't stand this bitch. Here she go, being on her high horse, talking out her ass. But it's good to see that Tegan is now starting to warm up again to her. So after Nate Senior, you know, does his evaluation, they actually win that they can actually argue his insanity, you know, in a defense trial, and she made Connor second chair. Well, Connor, after finding out that information about him, you know, he decides to go over there and talk to Annalise, and does it in her office. And even though Oliver told her it was not a good time, he decides to blow up the spotlight. You just always keep lying to me and all of that. You know, I looked into, you know, my admissions essay, and come to find out, you actually made a call to Hargrove to get me back in school. And Annalise was like, you failed out the school, Connor. When have you ever heard somebody getting readmitted back into the school that they flunked out of? And I'm like, point, because you can go to another school, but you ain't going to be able to go back to that school if you flunked out the school. That just doesn't happen. And he's mad because she called Hargrove to give her a favor. But yeah, she did Hargrove a favor, because her defending Hargrove and her divorce settlement actually saved her a lot of money, and also gave her access to her children. So Hargrove did her a favor by getting Connor back in school. This fool goes back and forth like, you know, why would you lie to me? Why would you tell me this? And she said that, well, over a year ago, you came to my house damn near suicidal, so I gave you purpose, and the reason why, you know, I got you back in here because you deserved it. Everything that you've done for me, I wanted to help you. But he was like, but I don't understand. Why did you pick me out of all these people? Why me? Why me? You know, because they pretty much knew that the reason why Michaela got picked, because Michaela, you know, had a high GPA. Asher got picked because of his father, because his father was a judge. Laurel's father was well connected. Wes, because she felt guilty. So Connor is like wondering, why me? Why me? And she was like, you know what? I ain't got time for you and your little bitch boy problems and your damn insecurities. Look, I am the Martin Luther King Jr. of the justice system. You can't expect me to save the world and be nice. And obviously, you have not understood that. So, Gabriel, you my second chair. And she dismisses his ass. And I'm like, good for you, Annalise. Because Annalise had to cuss Connor out with his insecure ass. Because, bruh, you've already proven why you're there. And why do you need her to constantly, you know, affirm to you why you're a part of that team? You were literally about to be the head of the fucking team. You were going to be the second chair. And you fucked it up by being an insecure bitch. So then we get a scene where Annalise finally sits down with Emmett. And he was saying that, so he tells Annalise that Ruth is definitely going to make us a part of her legal team. So we won. And that I'm going to be heading back to London soon. And she was saying, oh, so what about that misconduct up in London, huh? So Annalise was on to it because she says that because I peeped this, that when I told you I couldn't have lunch, you took Tegan. And you didn't need to take Tegan. You could have went by yourself. But then she was saying that, so is it females that you can't be alone with? And then he was like, I can't talk. And she was like, okay, I can respect that. There's rumors about me too. So it is what it is. He's like, no, I can't talk about it legally. So I'm like, see, Emmett was on some shit as to why he was there in the first place, but try to make it seem as if he was there to help them. No, he needed them to help his ass. Then if fast forwards it to a month and a half later, there's still no Oliver. We see that Michaela, is giving Bonnie that look because she knows something went down. We see that we see Laurel and Connor. We see Connor obviously got fucked up by somebody. We see that Michaela calls Nate. And when we see the phone ring, damn, Bonnie has the phone. And then we get a scene where Annalise comes home and she just falls down to the floor and starts crying. Practically wailing. So the question is, who got killed at the wedding? And it could possibly be Nate. It could possibly be Oliver, Asher, Miller. The jury is still out there, so that's where the episode ended. It still looks like it literally could be anybody. But we definitely know it's somebody close to Annalise because Annalise broke down. So we just have to see who was it that got killed at the wedding. And obviously she got that information from Frank. So that's what I have, y'all. If I missed anything, put it down in the comments. I'd love to talk to you about it. But subscribe to my channel. Click that bell so you get notifications every time I drop a video. Also, follow me on all of my social platforms. I have them all listed in the description box. Also, like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. And I'll be back with the next episode of How to Get Away with Murder. So until next time, everybody, take care.